Welcome to Power in Words, a quiet space dedicated to uncovering the inspiration, strength, and positive energy that already resides within you. In a world that constantly demands our attention and dictates our worth, this channel exists as a gentle reminder of your inherent value. Here, we do not dictate how you should live, nor do we offer hollow promises. Instead, we share a journey of understanding, extending a hand of friendship through the screen. This is a sanctuary for emotional clarity and self-compassion, a place where we can pause the relentless noise of everyday life and breathe together. Have you ever felt an overwhelming sense of exhaustion, even when you have not physically moved all day? It is a specific kind of weariness that settles deep into the bones, born not from physical exertion, but from the psychological weight of constant invisible competition. From the moment we are young, we are placed on a track. We are taught to look left and right, to measure our progress against the pace of the people running beside us. We absorb the unspoken rule that success is a scarce resource, a singular peak where only a few can ever finally stand. This early conditioning creates a profound internal anxiety within us. We scroll through curated glimpses of other lives, observing milestones and achievements that trigger a quiet, sinking feeling in our chests. We ask ourselves why we are falling behind, why our trajectory feels so much slower, or why we lack the certainty that others seem to project so effortlessly. In clinical terms, this is the trap of external referencing, where our entire sense of identity and self-worth becomes tethered to a fluctuating market of social validation. We become strangers to our own deepest desires, pursuing goals we never chose. We chase these illusions simply because everyone else seems to be chasing them. There is a profound philosophical concept regarding human behavior which suggests that our wants are rarely original. Instead, they are mimetic, meaning we imitate the desires of those around us. We see someone praised for a certain career path, a specific lifestyle, or a particular kind of intellect, and we unconsciously adopt that same pursuit. We enter arenas of intense rivalry, fighting bitterly for prizes that do not even align with our natural disposition. We exhaust our spirits trying to win games we were never meant for. Stepping away from this crowded arena is genuinely terrifying. The fear of missing out is powerful, but the fear of being truly seen without the protective armor of societal expectations is even greater. When you stop competing in the standard ways, you risk being misunderstood. You risk the puzzled looks of peers who cannot comprehend why you are no longer running in the same direction. The human nervous system is deeply wired for belonging, and for most of our evolutionary history, separating from the tribe meant certain danger. Therefore, choosing a path of profound individuality feels like a primal risk. Yet, remaining in the familiar race carries a heavier, more insidious cost. It breeds a chronic sense of feeling like an imposter. When you force yourself to fit a mold designed for someone else, you will always feel inadequate because your energy is spent on imitation rather than true expression. You are essentially renting space in an entirely borrowed reality. The tension you hold in your shoulders, the dread that pools in your stomach before the start of another relentless workday, these are not signs of weakness. They are intelligent signals from your psyche, indicating that you are completely misaligned with inner truth. This brings us to a transformative realization articulated brilliantly by the thinker Naval Ravikant, who observed that you can escape competition entirely through authenticity. He noted that essentially, no one can compete with you on being you. When you hear this for the very first time, it might sound like a simple platitude, a soft piece of modern advice. But beneath the surface, it is a ruthlessly pragmatic strategy for both psychological survival and worldly navigation. It is a fundamental rewiring of how we perceive value, shifting the focus from being the best at something to being the singular exception. Authenticity is a word that has been heavily commodified, often reduced to a marketing slogan or an excuse for unfiltered behavior. However, true authenticity is much quieter and far more rigorous. It is the ongoing process of locating the quiet intersection between your natural curiosities and your deepest obsessions. It is about paying deep attention to the things that feel like play to you but look like work to others. When you operate from this center, you do not need to rely on sheer discipline or willpower because the friction of resistance dissolves into the flow of interest. From a psychological perspective, discovering this authentic core requires an uncomfortable period of unmasking. We all wear masks, defensive layers we constructed in childhood to secure external validation and safety. Shedding these layers is not an event, but a gradual, sometimes painful molting process. You have to sit with the vulnerability of not knowing exactly who you are once you strip away the external titles alongside the heavy expectations of your family or culture. It requires radical honesty with yourself about what actually brings you joy, regardless of whether that joy holds any prestige in the eyes of the world. This phase of internal discovery often brings a season of isolation. As you begin to detach from the competitive games you previously played, you may find that you have less in common with the people who are still heavily invested in those outcomes. The conversations that once engaged you might suddenly feel incredibly hollow. This loneliness can feel deeply unsettling. And while chronic isolation is a heavy burden, this specific transitional solitude is often necessary. It is the clearing of space, a quiet interval required to finally hear your own internal voice, which has likely been completely drowned out by societal conditioning for decades now. Think about the silent struggles that occur in the ordinary moments of our days. You sit in a crowded room, listening to people argue passionately about metrics that mean absolutely nothing to your soul, and you feel entirely alien. You lie awake at night, staring at the dark ceiling, wondering if there is more to your existence than optimizing your daily productivity and managing your public image. These moments of quiet despair are actually moments of profound psychological clarity. They are the cracks in the facade where your true self is attempting to break through the carefully constructed false surface. This internal voice is relentlessly urging you to stop fighting for a seat at the wrong table. The path forward begins with a conscious shift from seeking external validation to cultivating internal curiosity. What are the subjects you read about relentlessly when absolutely no one is watching? What are the complex problems you naturally enjoy solving for fun? What are the eccentricities and specific quirks that you have spent years trying to iron out to appear more professional or acceptable? Those very traits, the ones you have marginalized or hidden, are often the raw materials of your unique competitive advantage. The ultimate goal is never to eradicate your wonderful weirdness, but rather to lean into it so heavily that it becomes your defining strength. It takes immense courage to be highly specific. Generalization is always safe because it allows you to blend seamlessly into the crowd, to be a competent replacement in any standard system. Specificity, on the other hand, makes you entirely irreplaceable, but also exposes you to potential rejection. When you offer your unvarnished self to the world, you must accept that you will not be for everyone. But the profound magic of the modern digital world is that you do not ever need to be for everyone. You only need to find the specific subset of humanity that resonates with your unique frequency, your particular way of synthesizing the world around you. By leaning completely into your specific nature, you build an unassailable moat around your life and your work. Competition implies a zero-sum game where multiple people are racing fiercely toward the exact same finish line. But when you are fully engaged in the pure expression of your authentic self, you step off that track. You are no longer running a frantic race. You are painting a beautiful canvas. No two canvases can be objectively compared because the criteria for success are generated entirely from within the artist. You become a category of one, operating in an ecosystem of your own distinct creation where comparison fundamentally breaks down. This journey is absolutely not immune to unexpected failures and long periods of self-doubt. When you try to build a life based entirely on authenticity, the inevitable failures will actually hurt significantly more, because you can no longer blame a faceless system for the disappointing outcome. The work is intimately and securely tied to your core identity. There will be tough days when the security of the conventional path looks incredibly appealing, when you will be sorely tempted to trade your newfound freedom for the comfortable numbness of simply fitting in. True resilience in this context means acknowledging the heavy fear without ever allowing it to dictate your ultimate direction. There is a magnificent compounding effect to being yourself. Just as financial capital grows exponentially over time, the invaluable capital of authenticity builds upon itself, creating a foundation that no market fluctuation can ever destroy completely. Every single time you make a conscious decision aligned with your true inner nature, every time you speak your mind without filtering it through the restrictive lens of audience expectation, you strengthen your psychological core. Over years and passing decades, this continuous alignment creates a powerful, undeniable personal presence. People are naturally drawn to those individuals who are deeply comfortable in their own skin, recognizing instinctively that such people possess a rare and quiet certainty that cannot be manufactured or purchased anywhere. This observation resonates deeply with the core philosophy of Carl Jung, who taught that the ultimate privilege of a lifetime is the journey of individuation, the profound act of becoming who you truly are. It is a massive privilege because it requires the precious luxury of deep self-reflection, but it is also a profound responsibility. We are not given our highly specific temperaments alongside our delightful eccentricities by random accident. They are the specific instruments we are meant to play in the much larger symphony of human existence. When we try so desperately to mimic the instruments of others, we tragically deprive the entire world of the specific beautiful music that only we can possibly ever create. Taking full responsibility for your own narrative means completely relinquishing the passive role of the victim forever. It means accepting that while you cannot control the constantly shifting economic landscapes and the unpredictable daily actions of your peers, you have absolute sovereignty over your own personal integrity. You can choose to stop viewing other people as direct benchmarks for your own success. You can choose to celebrate the victories of others genuinely, knowing that their success does not diminish your vast potential because you are not playing the same game. This shift in perspective is incredibly liberating and deeply healing. It releases vast amounts of emotional energy previously trapped in bitter envy and quiet resentment. As you solidify this authentic foundation, you will notice a remarkable change in your internal psychological landscape. The deafening noise of the competitive world begins to fade into a highly manageable background hum. You no longer feel the frantic, breathless urgency to keep up with every passing trend or comment on every public controversy. You develop a calm, steadfast, unwavering rhythm. You learn to deeply trust your own personal timing, understanding that a blooming flower does not constantly compare its bright petals to another flower. It simply opens when it is truly ready to bloom. This is the ultimate human freedom, the quiet, unshakable confidence of knowing exactly where you firmly stand. The world is infinitely complex and requires the highly specific combination of traits that only you possess. By trusting your perspective, you stop being a derivative copy and finally become an original masterpiece. You are not falling behind because you are walking a completely different path. True authenticity remains your ultimate quiet victory. If this deeply resonated, please like, share, and subscribe to Power in Words to continue our shared beautiful journey together.